Well, hello, hello, my lovely solopreneurs. Welcome back. Dr. Nick here, wellness coach and wholeness advocate, and you are listening to Holistic Mental Health for Women Solopreneurs, where we prioritize our wellness so we can create sustainable impact without burnout. And today I have with me the lovely Samantha, the Self-Care Alchemist. Welcome.
Hello, Dr. Nick. How are you today?
I am doing wonderful. I'm so happy to have you on today. And for those who do not know, this Friday, July 24th, is International Self-Care Day. So y'all know I'm always talking about self-care, pausing, taking care of yourself, prioritizing your wellness so that we're not out here killing ourselves, right? And so, of course, I had to recognize International Self Care Day. And the way that I'm doing that this year is I am having a conversation around self care with a lovely, fabulous woman who is out here doing the work every day this week. And today is the Self Care Alchemist. So,
Hello, everybody.
yes, yes, we are celebrating International Self-Care Day. So I'm so happy that you are able to be here with me today just to have um, just conversation and raising the level of awareness that we have around self-care and really what self-care actually is. Because I think sometimes our conversation gets a little bit um I guess, condensed around it, and
Mhm.
we need to open it up to make it a more holistic conversation so we have a real true understanding of what it means to have a self-care practice and have a life that is centered around that. So, Samantha, why don't you I would love if you would just tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll take it from there.
So, thank you again for having me as a part of this conversation because I think it's absolutely important for us to prioritize self-care, and that's the lane I come from. I had chronic stress for years and years and years, and it finally turned into burnout. It turned into adrenal fatigue. It turned into high cortisol levels. And me being a single mom, working full time in school, taking care of family, being the eldest daughter, and just always on. I didn't recognize that I wasn't really taking care of myself beyond the basics, like feeding myself, bathing myself, all the just the basic things we do to keep on surviving. So I was just in that mode and not conscious or aware I need to be in constant self-care mode. And so when I burned out, medical issue happened, early menopause, it was a wake-up call for me. And I didn't change immediately, but I
Mhm.
started down the rabbit hole of managing my symptoms and then finally getting to the root cause of why is this happening. And I didn't burn out once. I burned out 3 times in 3 different occasions because I
Mhm.
didn't, you don't really learn the lessons right away. You have to kind of at every stage of burnout, I learned something new about myself. I learned
Mhm.
something new about what burnout is, and I started to give myself more and more grace to move out of that space and to begin to share my experiences with others, which became me teaching other people how I was doing it because I can only come from my perspective. And then, of course, doing more research and connecting with lovely practitioners like you. And so now it's not just about radical selfishness, which is where I had to land initially because the pendulum was all the way over to the left and over to the right. I had to get it
Yeah.
all the way to the left to get my balance back and come back to the middle of it all. And then I started talking about self-devotion because self-care became more of a task, task-based practices versus what's the root of my care, which is me.
Oh
It's
my
it's
goodness.
about me. So self-devotion is now the message I evangelize and try to share with other people in different modalities, not just from a mental emotional level, but from a part of your work, part of your
Mhm.
relationships, all of it matters, and being self-devoted helps keep you grounded in that space.
Yes, love I love that. I love the whole concept of self-devotion. And you said something really important when you talked about how sometimes the conversation around self-care and what we do, it becomes so task oriented, right?
Mhm.
It's like, let me check the box. I did this, I took a nap, I did,
Yeah.
whatever the things are that are on our list of what self-care looks like and what it means. And I think the idea of getting to the root, getting to the core, the essence of what's going on within you so
Mhm.
that you're then able to tap into what it is that you actually need. What, and it could be so many different things, right?
Yeah.
There's so self-care is so varied. Um and I want to just hit on this. So this coming Friday is International Self-Care Day, so
Mhm.
July 24th, right? And that day, when I went back and started to do some research on that, that day was chosen very intentionally because it's to remind us that self-care is meant to be a 24/7 lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
not like you're saying, it's not just these little tasks that we do. It's not just an event that we
Mhm.
plan for ourselves. While those things are good, we like our massages, our nails done, our hair done, our little retreats, brunches, whatever it is, all the things we love to do.
Yeah.
Those are fabulous. But if we are doing those things and then we are returning to the same patterns of living
Mhm.
that cause us to be, like you said, multiple burnouts,
Yeah.
um, complete just depletion
Mhm.
of our essence of who we are, then what good was that massage?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Right.
You stay in this burnout loop, this burnout
Yes.
relief loop, and it's constantly fighting and struggling against what what's become habitual, so this is a habit that we start to form. It's like, okay, I'm burned out, I'm stressed out, let me go do something that's going to make me feel better, and then you get back, then, oh, I feel better, you go back into the burnout, stressed out, and so it's just this loop that continues until you decide, okay, I'm going to get off this roller coaster, and I'm
Mhm.
going to make this a lifestyle choice, so that the self-care is not a thing that you go do. It's not an external thing, but it's an internal
Mhm.
motivation that you have to consistently put yourself first at the
Yeah.
top of the list every single day. You're checking in with yourself, etc. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about more about that, but yeah.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So what do you think, you had mentioned that you had several burnout, I think you said 3 different
Mhm.
burnout incidents that happened, and that you learned something different about yourself in each one of those.
Right.
What do you think are some of the let's break this down. So first, what were some of the indicators that you were headed toward or had already approached burnout? What were some of the things that were happening that you noticed that was like, "Yep, this is it."
Yeah, so I don't think I was even able to name it initially,
Mhm,
especially with the first one with the medical situation that I had. That was a few years later when I recognized, okay, you're
mhm,
in burnout.
mhm,
When I was starting to do the research, so it was the physical was the most prominent thing the first time. Um, the second time, it was physical, but it was like emotional because I went through a relationship breakdown that
mhm,
was like it was my second divorce, and I was chronically depressed. I was, had lost myself in that relationship, and so I was like, "Who am I?" I feel like I had lost my mind literally, and so, having the financial crash I had around that time as well, the relationship I crashed at the time, so that was the second version, and then the third version was me, coming I don't wanna say coming off of long COVID
mm,
and hormonal dysregulation.
Yeah.
So I was battling both of those things. So I had mental fog. I was fatigued all the time. I could not get it together. And you're like, okay, you push through, push through, push through, especially when you're younger. But then as you get warm up a certain age, you're in that perimenopausal stage. Life is just not as easy as it was to bounce back. And I didn't have that bounce back anymore. And so I was like, my God, I just cannot sustain this anymore. And even though I was doing a lot of the self-care things, I was again in that loop and it was just not landing that I needed to go deeper. And it wasn't about doing more. It was just about being more self-aware
Mhm.
and choosing myself more prominently every single day and recognizing the things that I need to say no to. And that's so cliche almost now. It's like, just say no, just have boundaries and beautiful. We need to have those things.
Mhm.
But what does that really mean on a day-to-day basis? So every
Yes.
single day I was choosing myself and saying, you know what? This doesn't work for me. I had to let so many things go that looked like that was feeding my ego,
Yeah.
because my ego was literally killing me. So I think that from those 3 stages, first was physical, early menopause, the second was the relational and financial burnout, well, burnout was causing those things, and then
Mhm.
the last one I had was, more hormonal, um, and also results of long COVID.
Yeah, yeah. You know, y- I think this is a really important call out because everything that you mentioned has something to do with a transition, right? Some type of transition in your life.
Mhm.
And I think particularly as women who have so many roles, so many people that we are taking care of, nurturing, loving on, pouring into, all the things that we do as women.
Mhm.
Um, when something that we are not always good at is monitoring our capacity.
Mhm.
And when transitions happen, capacity changes. It's just automatic, right? It's automatic, but we live like it's not. We live like that is not an automatic thing, and it
Mhm.
really is. And part of self devotion, as is your
Yeah.
thing, self devotion is looking inside and
Mhm.
recognizing what is going on with you. What are the needs that you have in your spirit, mind, and body right now in this season that we're in right now? And I
Mhm.
think, and this is where my message of pausing comes in, and it's so important because we don't pause long enough to look in the self devotion piece, look in, monitor what's going on with us. And we are like, it's important that we recognize how worthy we are of this, right?
Yes.
We are worthy of this practice
Mhm.
of self devotion, looking inward, raising our self awareness about what we're walking through, what we're going through, because all of us go through transitions. All of us have been through what it may not look the same as your transitions, but we
Mhm.
all go through transitions. Whether it's relational transitions, illness, like I was in a car accident. I like
Right. Yeah.
freaking, I was in a major car accident, ran into a brick wall, right? That it was a real literal brick wall, but it was
Mhm.
also a brick wall moment. Like, hello, this, my capacity has now changed. There's no denying, there's no tunnel vision here. You can't move.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so what are you going to do? And that is the kind of stance we need to take in our lives even when we don't hit a literal brick wall.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? We need to this what I had to do because I there was nothing else I could do is really what we need to do in our day-to-day living, how we set up our lives, that we need to be monitoring ourselves. We need to understand our capacity to such a degree that we can even feel in our body when something's
Mhm.
off.
Mhm.
I'm catching it. Something is off. right?
That's correct.
And that takes a level of self-devotion
Mhm.
that we need to give ourselves permission to do, to have.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think because we are so many of us have started to embody self-care on a
Mhm.
general level, on a basic level, um, moving to the next level,
Yeah.
I'm terming self-devotion, just makes life open up and expand so much more for you.
Mhm.
Because when we are doing our when we're in our business or we're killing it in our careers or we are, moving into other areas of our lives where we know that we are brilliant, we are filled with a lot of us are more self-aware.
Mhm.
But then we feel that void is still kinda there, that hole is there, that something is missing still there, that thing that, um, the maintaining self-care feels, I don't know, more challenging because we have all these other things that's vying for our time. We have to get the kids,
Mhm.
get them together. Because 'cause I'm like me, this is my empty nest stage. Getting them out, launching them out into the world successfully, but then you may have smaller children, and you're like, "I know I need to more self-care, but I gotta pay attention to my kids. I gotta take care of my business or my career," and so we're still kinda juggling so many things right now, especially with the many barriers that have been put up for our success, right? And so now it's like, "Okay, how do I even fit all this in, especially when there's so much mental distraction out there? How do I fit this in when there's so much going on that's designed to make me stressed out, designed to dysregulate me, designed to make me feel like I have no choice but to continue to be hustling, grinding, continue to
Mhm.
push more and more and more just to stay ahead?" And that's one thing that I think a lot of us, I don't say we don't fail to see it, but we don't really always reckon it's not always evident that living in a capitalistic society drives us to always be in survival mode financially because if everything is getting more expensive, everything is less accessible, and in order for us to be able to keep up, to not be homeless, to not be to, feel like we're gonna lose our job tomorrow or lose our business tomorrow. We feel like we have to work
Yes.
harder, and I think it's by design, and it's unfortunate, and so but because we feel caught up in this system, we don't see a way out because no one's
Mhm.
showing us the way out.
Exactly.
Everybody's telling us, "Work harder, do better,"
Yeah.
"Grind more," and then we're distracted by all the bad news, whether it's a war, whether it's, what's happening in politics. So all these things are pulling at our fibers, the very fiber of our being, and so self-care can no longer be the external practice that we do, the task on our list. It must be embodied by with self-devotion, that next level, that deeper level that
Mhm.
is so important so that we can be grounded in ourselves, so that when the distractions happen, we're not affected by it.
Yeah.
When we are not driven by scarcity, we're not driven by all the things that the external, society says that we need to focus on. So
Yes.
I think that's really important to kind of bring out as well and let people know you're not alone.
Mhm.
These things are real. Self-care can help you, but going to that deeper level, that next level, so that you're not distracted by it, you're not, um, your mind is not blown by it. So, I'm
Yes.
glad that we're having this conversation. I'm glad
Yes.
we get to, you know, really let people know that what is happening is not, um, something you're imagining.
Right. It's
It's
real.
it's very
It's
real.
very real. It's very real. Yes. So many pressures, so many distractions, so many, like I like to say, I started saying this back during COVID, but our world is so traumatic. It's just traumatic being alive, right? It's
It
just
is.
traumatic being alive. I'm not saying I'm not grateful. I'm so
Sure.
grateful to be here. but it's traumatic being in this world because
Yeah,
because all you have to do is turn on the TV for a little bit of time,
have
and
to.
okay, and it's traumatic. Um, but I want to just touch on a couple of things that you said and see if you can share a little bit more about this. You talked about um, taking self-care to the next level of self-devotion and
Mhm,
how, we cannot we cannot stay in this kind of task, the external,
mhm.
the external self-care. It really needs to come and be an internal practice. So I wonder if you could, for our listeners, say a little bit more about what that could look like. What could this internal practice look like for people?
For well, the things that I've been doing and that has really helped keep me grounded in self-devotion is remembering that I must fill my cup. I must fill it to overflow. Every one of us has one. We sometimes they call it something different, but I call it
Mhm,
a cup. You must fill that up daily, and especially if you are in a chronic space of stress or if you are in your self-care journey, taking that to the next level, um, checking in with yourself every morning before you get up, before you even get out of the bed.
mhm,
You're checking in with yourself, you're acknowledging and appreciating yourself. You're filling yourself up with blessings. You're filling yourself up with acknowledgement. You're filling yourself up with everything that happens to me today is for me, and I'm worthy of it. And
mhm.
some of these things require some self-healing.
Yes.
It requires some, worthiness work.
Mhm,
Talked about that earlier, I think. And it requires you to just kinda do an audit or an evaluation of where am I? What do I think about myself? You
mm,
know, how do I feel about myself? Because a lot of times we may think, "Oh, I'm a great person. I'm pretty. I'm intelligent. I'm this," but how do you really feel,
mhm,
about yourself? And begin to look deeper and seeing the value, your inherent value. You're not valuable because of what someone says or how you dress or all the things. You're valuable just because you're you.
mhm.
Because you were born into this planet. I was talking the other day about to someone, it was like, the fact that you went through the birth experience and you got to adulthood means you're an extraordinary person.
True.
You are an
Yeah.
extraordinary person, and you deserve to, have all the good that life has for you. And
Mhm.
then you have to protect your mind, protect all of your they call them your gates, your eye gate, ear
That
gate,
the
your
gates.
yes, all of those parts of your
Mhm,
body where information can inundate you, especially early in the morning. And
mhm,
it's like, okay, for me, I never look at the news. I never look at any I don't listen to the weather, none of that in the morning, first thing, because that's when you're most susceptible to everything. All the subtle messages that come through, all the things that tell you you should be depressed, angry, you're frustrated because the world is going to hell in a handbasket, you
mhm,
know? And so if you protect those things in the morning, your day is much better. And then in the afternoon at work or after you're going to lunch, you wanna check in with yourself again, and you wanna say, "How am I doing? What's going on? How did that meeting go? Did that person irritate me or trigger me? And if they did, okay, let me get back to myself," because all the time we give so much of ourselves away
mhm.
and our energy, the words that we say, the feelings that we have, people sap all of that from you every single day.
Yes.
So in the workspace, you wanna come back, check back in with yourself and kinda re-up, recalibrate because it's important. And these things is very different from the pedicure, manicure, mimosa, brunch, it's very different from that. This is you creating a relationship with yourself so that you fall in love and become obsessed with yourself so that no one can tell you who you are and no one can um take anything away from you ever again. That's what self-devotion is. And then in the evening you kind of you reinforce all of that. And these are small, kind of small things to do, but it's about remembering yourself first.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
necessarily remembering the task you have to do, but it's just about just let me remember me. I'm
Yeah.
here for everybody else.
Acknowledge
Remember me.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. And the thing is, I think that the point that you just made, like these are small things,
Mhm.
is so important to talk about because when I'm coaching women, this is one of the barriers that we have is because whenever I say, okay, what's a small step we can take? And
Mhm.
they may not know. And so I may suggest one that may be like starting with some affirmations or
Mhm.
checking in my 3 questions that I suggest people pause and ask themselves throughout the day. What do I need in my spirit? What do I need in my mind? What do I need in my body?
Mhm.
Check in with yourself. Sometimes it might be you need to drink some water
Mhm.
or you need to turn off the lights for a minute or you whatever it may be. And to them these seem like small things, right? They're small things, but the thing is that it doesn't take that much to begin shifting
Mhm.
the mindset and changing the narrative that you're walking in,
Right.
right? Because we behave from belief. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite sayings. We behave from belief. So you have to start doing these small things that start changing the way you see yourself.
Yes.
Because if you see yourself appropriately, your behavior will begin to change with that belief.
Mhm.
And that's why this practice of self devotion is so important because it is, as you said, acknowledging you. It is
Mhm.
bringing yourself to the table. It is allowing yourself to have a presence. Like I like to call it like ladies, we have to be the leading ladies of our lives.
Yes. I love
We
that so much.
yes. Yes. We come on. You are the leading lady of your life. I thought of it again when you said you survived birth, you grew up, you're here. You are important. You are the leading lady. And too many times we are acting like the best friend over here or the
Right.
extra in the
Mhm.
movie or whatever. No, we in your own life movie, in the Nicole Pertiller movie, I am the star.
That
And
part.
right? In the Samantha movie,
Mhm.
you are the star. And we have to begin believing that we are the central figure of our lives because then we will begin to take care of ourselves that
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
Begin to, you know, and it's just it's a these are as you said, these are small shifts, but our mind is a powerful thing. So when we're able to make shifts in our thinking, you shift your thinking, you shift your world.
Mhm.
Shift your thinking, shift your world. If you can start making these small shifts in your mind about who you are and
Mhm.
what you are worthy of, that's when the patterns begin to change, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I love that, um, the leading I love that. You said the leading lady of your life because it's so true. And I think we have been so groomed and programmed and conditioned to believe that we're only here for secondary roles and the support role in other people's lives. And
Mhm,
when we finally give that up, a lot of people are gonna be angry. They're gonna be mad, mad because you are no longer putting their needs ahead of your own. And
mhm,
especially as Black women, we must put our needs first and foremost every single time. You gotta choose yourself every single time. Is it them between me and them? It's me. And
mhm,
that used to just really give me a cringe factor because again, like growing in a traditional Christian home, you're taught to
mhm,
defer. You're taught to put others ahead of yourself. You're taught to not think highly of yourself. So now that I have switched gears and now that I put myself first before anyone else, even my kids, I'm like, okay. And I'm still working on that part because I'm a mama. So
yes.
but I recognize if I am not putting myself first and I'm just accepting the scraps of life, the crumbs of life, then I am really not going to be at a full capacity again to be able to support and help other people. So, like I mentioned before, my daughter, she's in graduate school. She's about to graduate in August. She's had a lot of upheavals in her life. If I were not me focused, I wouldn't have the energy to help her. I would not have the energy to be able to, help her move, help her set things up, and be present because I
Yes.
put myself first every single morning, first thing in the morning and every single day. So now I have the energy. Now I have the emotional bandwidth, the mental bandwidth to be able to help her process things. But if you're just playing second fiddle and, you're have put everybody else first and allow them to deplete every bit of energy you have, I wouldn't be able to do any of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, a lot of times, it feels cringy sometimes when you're like, put yourself first, you're up here. But I think it's important for us to recognize that just because we're putting ourselves first does not mean we're putting others down,
Right.
right? Because
Exactly.
I feel that energy back from people when we talk about it. It's like,
Mhm.
no, but my children, but my babies, but my this and my mom and it, no, I still like I it doesn't mean that you can't take care of other people. It doesn't mean that you can't care for other people. Earlier this year, I was in a situation where I had to make a decision about stepping into a caregiving role.
Mhm.
And it was with my mother and my grandmother. So my mother ends up in this situation where she's caring for my grandmother.
Mhm.
And I recognized that my mom was not fully capable of doing what was being asked of her.
Mhm.
So I had to now make a decision about what am I going to do
Mm.
in this situation? Well, I chose to put my life, so to speak, on hold for
Mhm.
a moment,
Mhm.
come over here, and I'm going to now give pretty much my all I
Mhm.
had in that moment to this situation so that
Mhm.
my mom doesn't drown. I'm
Right.
going to help take care of my grandmother, right? It lasted for about 2.5 months.
Mhm.
In those 2.5 months, I was not necessarily putting myself first the way we think of
Sure.
putting ourselves first, right?
Mhm.
I was pouring into a situation in my family that I felt I needed to do.
Mhm.
But while I was doing that, I had to grab something for myself still,
Yes.
right? While I was away from my home, I
Mhm.
was over in their house now in a different state, and I was away from all my stuff, my home, my business, my office, all the things, but I still had to grab something for
Mhm.
myself that I could do for myself while I was pouring in, and for me, that was moving my body and fueling my body. I focused
Yes.
on movement and I focused on
Mhm.
nutrition. I was like, "If I don't do anything else today, I'm making myself a healthy meal."
Yes.
Right? If I don't do anything else today, I'm going for this walk
Mhm.
because those are the things that filled me up. And I couldn't do anything else. My business virtually stopped. I was off work for a little bit of time. Like there was nothing else that I could do. But I
Mhm.
knew that I still had to do something for myself, no matter how little it felt. I had to do it, or else I wouldn't have been able to show up for them every
Mhm.
day the way
Mhm.
I was showing up for them. And so I think it's important for us to understand that just because we're putting ourselves first, meaning we're thinking of ourselves first, we're thinking of our needs, doesn't mean that we're neglecting the people in our lives. It just means that we're supporting ourselves in a way that we can carry and make the different decisions that we need to make in life and in our relationships. And when
Yeah.
we don't do that, we're just stretched too thin.
Too thin. And I think that's smart. And I think we do have to recognize because in life you have seasons. You have seasons where you will be possibly taking care of other people.
Mhm,
You will temporarily put your needs on the back burner, but, like,
mhm,
you still checked in with yourself. You still had in the back of your mind that my health is important, especially in this season,
mhm.
and now I'm going to give of myself, fuel myself so that I can be available, in this season, but then you go back to recalibrating and
Mhm.
reconnecting and giving yourself exactly what you need so that you are not in a depleted space. You probably were not fully depleted, but you weren't at the full overflow space. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, one other thing that I really want us to touch on before we close today, you mentioned it a little bit. You talked about us as Black women. And I want to just touch on this because you and I both know that there are some differences and there are some issues of access and systems and all of these things, different barriers that keep us from being able to uh, operate in self devotion or as the leading ladies of our lives as we should, that
Mhm.
may be different from other segments of the population.
Yeah.
And I know you do great work around this and you've pulled people together and I would just love for a moment if you could just talk about your project and why it's important and maybe even some of the things you've learned in the process.
Thank you for that intro. I partnered with Dr. Tiffany Mims. She's a psychologist, and we wanted to do something specifically for Black women because we talk to Black women. We are Black women, and when it comes to self care, we just have I don't say special circumstances in a sense, because we've always been seen as labor. When people see Black women, they see us as labor caretakers, and that's really all that people see whether we are at the lowest level of society or the highest level in executive, even in ownership spaces, they still see us as labor. And with that being said, we recognize that we have special circumstances that we must, or hurdles we have to overcome from a mindset perspective, from a spiritual perspective, from a financial, emotional, physical perspective, because statistics bear out. How we're treated in healthcare, how we're treated in the workplace. How many Black women have lost jobs or been pushed out, all these things are indicators that there is a specific onslaught against Black women, and so we have to take care of ourselves in a different way. So self-care, for us can mean very different things because we don't always come from a place of security or safety or, feeling like we are prioritized. So we built the Black Women's Self-Care Bundle, and it's 12 experts who have come together. They're from, coaches to psychologists. Several women have come together in this project to bring free resources to Black women. And so the Black Women's Self-Care Bundle was created. You can go to blackwomenselfcarebundle.com to access those free resources and to um, hear some of the interviews that we did because we did like interviews with I think it's 8 total, including me and Dr. Mims, where we are talking about this specific issue with Black women. And then on the 24th, International Self-Care Awareness Day, we're going to have a roundtable discussion about this specific topic as well. It's going to be here on Substack, it's going to be on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So we're going to be streaming live. So with that being said, and with the Black women who are intentionally activating self-care in their lives, this is just another layer, like I mentioned earlier, that we
Mhm,
can go deeper into what it looks like for us on the mental, physical, emotional, relational, spiritual level of self-care that we all need, and that so that we can um, I guess, create a deeper foundation, a firmer foundation for us in self care and devotion,
mhm.
so that every day we remember ourselves. Every day we consider ourselves. We give ourselves what we need, and we are pivoting into a different narrative of what being a Black woman looks like and how self-care can create a new experience for her so that she's not trying to do what everybody else in the rest of society is doing because she recognizes she's different. Um, but that different doesn't mean diminished. It means
Mhm.
that she just has something that the world sees and recognizes and even mimics, but that sh with but still trying to throw her away. It's like, "No, so
Mhm.
we're not gonna be thrown away anymore. We're gonna be at the top of the mountain, and we are going to allow self-care and self-devotion to be the foundation we stand on."
Okay. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing around this. And I know it's very important work. One of the things that I am very passionate about is access
Mhm,
to care worldwide. That's why there's an international self-care day in
yeah,
the first place, is because there is a recognition internationally
mhm,
that systems have been built that make it inequitable
mhm,
in access for healthcare, mental health care, um, even access to holistic types of treatments and
mhm,
things like that. And so it's the self-care conversation for all of us as humans is
yeah,
so important, and it's so much deeper than what we sometimes see being projected
mhm,
as self-care. And so I think the desire for me of what I want people to take away from the conversation is that you are, number one, worthy of self-devotion, being the leading lady or man of
mm,
your life, right? Because if there's any men listening,
yeah,
you are also
mhm,
the leading man of your life, right? Um, just a little side note, in my full-time job, I coach men and women, and I
mhm,
do have some men come in and they are just at their wits' end as well.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what to do. My wife is tired, my kids, and
mhm,
so much pressure in their minds of what it means to provide. And when I ask them, well, when's the last time you did something you enjoy? Oh, I don't know. I don't have time to
mhm,
do that.
yeah,
I don't. And so it really is something that we all have to look at. And, but let's look at it and in this deeper level, taking it
mhm,
to the next step, as you said, this deeper level of self care into self devotion, into being the leading character in your life, right? Let's give ourselves that care, that grace, that deeper level of understanding and self-awareness to do these things for ourselves and to see what it is that we actually need
mhm,
for ourselves, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I love that you mentioned that Black men, men in general, but I think Black men as well, because I have a 25-year-old, 26-year-old son. And we talk almost every day, and we talk about mental health specifically, because I
Mhm.
think and how to cope. I think a lot of times men are just thrown out there into the world without the skills to learn how to cope, without the tools to learn how to, think critically, to make good decisions, and they're just expected to just go out there and just know what to do. They don't know what to do. And
Mhm.
it has been kind of that's been the catch-22 or the dichotomy between Black men and Black women, where a lot of Black men have looked to Black women for energy, answers, and just the way out. But we have to teach them their own way out, how to stand on their own, how to implement good mental health practices, good skills, good coping skills, good thinking skills, so that they can be um, able to support themselves, not just financially, but
Mhm.
emotionally
Emotionally.
and be a support for the women that they want to engage with as well. So,
Absolutely. So important.
yes.
So important. Well, Samantha, thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so much for being with me today. Thank you so much for the work that you do. And everyone who's listening, remember to pause, take care of yourself, give yourself some grace, breathe, and we will see you next time.